My name is Darren, and I'm 82 years old. Before my time runs out, I want to share something important with you, something that took me most of my life to understand. If you want to be truly happy, you need to protect your alone time. Not just squeeze it in when you can, actually protect it, like it's the most valuable thing you own. Now, some of you might be thinking, this old guy wants me to cut everyone off and live like a hermit. That's not what I'm saying at all. Stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you could save you decades of exhaustion and confusion. Let me tell you about my neighbor Margaret. She's 76. Last month, she knocked on my door at 9 in the evening. Her hands were shaking, and she looked upset. She'd just hosted Thanksgiving dinner for 14 family members, spent 2 whole days cooking. And you know what happened? They showed up, sat on their phones, argued about politics, criticized her cooking, then left without even helping with dishes. Not one person asked how she was doing. Not one person noticed she'd lost weight or that she looked tired. She stood there in my doorway and said, "Darren, I just spent 2 days cooking for people who wouldn't spend 2 minutes really seeing me." That hit me hard, because I used to be just like that, doing everything for everyone, wearing myself out and feeling invisible. Let me take you back to 1996. I was 49 years old. My father was dying in the hospital. I took time off from my postal job to be with him. Every day, I'd drive 40 minutes to sit with him in that hospital room that smelled like cleaning supplies and bad cafeteria food. One afternoon in May, sunlight was streaming through the window. My dad opened his eyes and looked right at me. "Darren," he said, "I need to tell you something before I go." I leaned in close. "I spent my whole life trying to make your mother happy. And you know what I learned? You can't make another person happy. You can only make yourself smaller until they stop complaining." Those words confused me at the time. I told him he was just tired that Mom loved him, but he just shook his head and closed his eyes. He died 6 days later. At his funeral, everyone praised my mom for being such a devoted wife, and I stood there in my black suit, thinking about what Dad had said. It took me 4 more years to understand what he meant. For those 4 years, I did exactly what he'd done. I shrank myself. I said yes when everything inside me screamed no. I went to dinners I hated. I attended gatherings that drained me. I answered late-night phone calls from people who only called when they needed something, and I was miserable. These weren't bad people. They just took up all my space, all my time, all my energy. Their opinions became more important than my own feelings. Here's what I learned. When someone says you need to visit more, call more, or be more available, they're usually not thinking about what's good for you. They're thinking about what makes them feel better. When friends pressure you to go out when you want to stay home, they're not celebrating you. They're filling their own emptiness. It's like this. They'll drain your battery and call it love. They'll ignore your boundaries and call it caring. And if you let them, you'll end up feeling empty even in a crowded room. The turning point for me came on a Sunday morning in October. I was 53. I'd been married to Linda for 28 years. She was a good person, kind. Everyone loved her, and I loved her too, in a comfortable, familiar way, but I was dying inside. Every morning I'd wake up before the alarm and lie there in the dark, feeling the weight of another day of pretending to be someone I wasn't. That Sunday, Linda planned lunch with her sister Dorothy and Dorothy's husband Frank. Same people, same conversations, every single week. Frank would talk about his boat. Dorothy would complain about her knees, and I'd sit there nodding and smiling while something inside me screamed. That morning I said no. "No, I'm not going." Linda froze. "What do you mean?" "I don't want to sit for 3 hours making small talk. I want to stay here." In silence, she looked scared, like I'd just broken some sacred rule. "But they're expecting you, then they'll be disappointed." She left without another word, and then silence. Beautiful, complete silence. I sat in my chair by the window and watched the oak tree drop its autumn leaves. I could actually hear them hitting the ground. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I didn't move for 4 hours, didn't watch TV, didn't read. Just sat there being myself without performing for anyone. When Linda came home, she was cold. She made dinner in silence. This went on for 3 weeks. She was punishing me with coldness and distance, and here's the strange thing. I felt more peaceful during that punishment than I had in years of her approval. That's when I realized something. I'd spent 3 decades building my whole identity around keeping her happy, and it was never really about my happiness at all. Let me share some truths I've learned first. The people closest to you will often resist your alone time the hardest. Not because they'll miss you, but because your independence shows them their own dependence on you. When you start protecting your time, they might call you selfish. They might say you've changed. But what they're really saying is, I don't like that you're not available for me to use anymore. Second, being lonely and being alone are completely different things. I've been in rooms with 50 people and felt crushingly lonely. But I've also spent entire weekends alone in my house, reading and working in my garden, and felt completely whole. Real peace doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being comfortable with yourself. Third, your happiness is not a team sport. You won't find peace by making everyone else comfortable. That path leads to exhaustion and resentment. I see young people posting photos of parties they didn't want to attend, smiling while feeling empty inside, collecting friends like trophies but having no real connections. Real peace comes from quiet moments, from mornings with coffee and your thoughts, from evenings reading instead of scrolling, from weekends doing nothing and feeling no guilt. When you start setting boundaries, some people will leave. Let them. The people who disappear when you stop being convenient were never really there for you anyway. They were there for what you provided: entertainment, validation, services. The few who stay, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your peace, those are your real people. Fifth, protecting your alone time isn't about building walls. It's about building a sanctuary. I'm not saying abandon everyone and live on a mountain. I'm saying create a space inside yourself where you can retreat, recharge, and remember who you really are. Build this sanctuary with daily habits. Morning routines you protect. Evening time you don't give away. Boundaries you maintain even when people complain, when hard times come, and they will. Your friends might be busy. Your family might have their own problems. But you'll have this inner sanctuary to retreat to. I eventually divorced Linda. Not because I hated her, but because we'd built 28 years on me, pretending to be someone I wasn't. I've spent the last 29 years alone, not lonely, alone, and they've been the most peaceful, authentic years of my life. I wake when I want. I do what I want. The few people in my life now know the real Darren, not some performance. And that's worth more than 100 shallow relationships. You have one life, one short, precious life. Stop spending it trying to make everyone else happy while you disappear. Protect your mornings. Guard your quiet time. Say no without guilt. Let the wrong people leave. Let them call you selfish if they want. In the quiet that remains, you'll finally hear your own voice again. If this message spoke to something inside you, I want to ask you to do something. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me. I'm 82, I'll be gone soon enough. But for yourself, when life gets too loud, when guilt creeps in, when you need to remember that protecting your peace isn't selfish. Come back here. This can be your reminder. In this noisy world, you need a quiet place to remember what really matters. And here's what I want you to do this week. Find just 1 hour, 60 minutes, where you turn off your phone, close the door, and sit in silence. No TV, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. It might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. You're meeting yourself, maybe for the first time in years. Do this once a week, then twice, then daily if you can. Watch what happens. Take care of yourself, young one. Time is shorter than you think, much shorter.